So, let me ask you something. Think about, well, everything. Those giant container ships crossing the ocean, the endless stream of trucks on our highways, the long freight trains that snake across the country. What's the one thing, the one piece of tech that powers pretty much all of it?
The answer isn't just a diesel engine. It's way cooler than that. It's an event. A tiny, incredibly violent, but perfectly controlled explosion. And it's happening thousands of times every single minute. It's this incredible story of physics and engineering all wrapped up in one.
So, to really get a handle on that little explosion, we first need to zoom way out and appreciate just how big its impact is. Let's talk about the unseen giant that keeps our entire world moving.
We're talking about the huge cargo ships, right? The trucks that bring literally everything to our stores, the freight trains, even the backup generators that keep the lights on in a hospital during a blackout, or the giant construction equipment that builds our cities. They are the absolute workhorses of the global economy, and yep, almost all of them run on diesel.
So what is it? What's the secret sauce? What makes these things so incredibly powerful and efficient at turning a drop of fuel into actual physical work? Well, the answer isn't out here in the big world. It's deep inside the engine itself.
Okay, so let's zoom in. Let's get right into the anatomy of this engine. Because to create an explosion that powerful, you first have to set the stage. You have to create the absolute perfect environment for it to happen.
And it all comes down to this classic four-step dance. First, you've got intake. The engine breathes in air. Then, compression. It squeezes that air like crazy. Then comes the power stroke. That's our big bang. And finally, exhaust, pushing all the used-up gases out. Now for a diesel engine, step 2, that compression stroke, that's where the real magic begins.
Okay, get this. The piston squeezes the air with so much force that the temperature just skyrockets. We're talking over 540 degrees Celsius or 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. To put that in perspective, that is hotter than the surface of Venus. And this is just from squeezing air. There's no spark, no flame involved yet, just pure brute force pressure creating incredible heat.
And right there, that's the absolute biggest difference between a diesel engine and the gasoline engine in your car. A gas engine needs a spark plug to set off the fuel. A diesel engine, it doesn't have one. It uses that super hot compressed air to do all the work. It's called compression ignition, and trust me, it is the key to this entire story.
Okay, so the stage is set. We've got this chamber full of incredibly hot, high-pressure air. Now it's time to introduce the real star of the show, the high-pressure fuel injection.
But here's the problem we have to solve. You've got liquid fuel, but you can't just, squirt a puddle of it in there. Liquid fuel actually doesn't burn very well. To get that powerful, super efficient explosion we want, you have to somehow transform that liquid into a fine mist, a cloud of tiny droplets. And you have to do it instantly.
This whole process has a name. It's called atomization. And a good way to think about it is like a can of spray paint or a perfume bottle, right? You press the button and the liquid turns into a fine mist. Well, this is the same basic idea, but just on a whole other level. By shattering the fuel into millions of tiny droplets, you're massively increasing the surface area that can touch that hot air. And that means it can burn way faster, almost instantly.
So how in the world do you do that? How do you create this perfect explosive mist inside that crazy hot high-pressure cylinder and do it all in like a fraction of a second, less time than it takes to blink an eye?
The answer is pressure, a truly mind-boggling amount of pressure. We're talking about fuel being injected at up to 30,000 psi. That's pounds per square inch. Now, to help you visualize that, imagine taking 10 cars, 10 full-size cars, and stacking them all on top of a single postage stamp. That's the kind of force we're dealing with. And it's this insane pressure that blasts the fuel through these tiny little holes, just shattering it into that microscopic mist we need.
All right, let's zoom in one last time. Really zoom in. We're going down to the level of a single, tiny fuel droplet. Let's follow its incredibly short, incredibly violent life, which lasts just a few milliseconds. Okay, so picture this. A single droplet of diesel fuel, smaller than the width of one of your hairs, is blasted out of the injector, and it flies right into that chamber of super hot, super compressed air. Its journey begins now. The very instant that droplet hits that 1,000-degree environment, its surface just boils. Instantly, it's not a slow evaporation. It flashes into a vapor, creating this little cloud of fuel gas around the liquid core that's still left. And this fuel vapor, this gas, it's now in the absolute perfect state to burn. It immediately starts mixing and swirling with all that hot oxygen-rich air that the piston works so hard to prepare. And right there, you have the perfect recipe for an explosion.
So you've got this perfect mixture in an environment that is unbelievably hot and under just crushing pressure. At this point, there's only one thing that can possibly happen. We've arrived at the climax of our story, the magic of auto-ignition.
Auto-ignition is, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It ignites automatically, by itself. There's no spark needed. The conditions, the temperature and the pressure are just so extreme that the fuel-air mixture can't help itself. It just spontaneously and very, very violently combusts.
And that is the bang. That's the power. That spontaneous explosion creates this huge pressure wave that just slams the piston down with incredible force. That's the power stroke. That's the moment that turns the crankshaft. That's what moves the truck. That's what powers our entire world. And it all started with one tiny droplet of fuel igniting all on its own.
Okay, let's zoom back out now. We've gone from the macro to the micro and back. We've seen the incredible physics going on in there, but so what? What does this all mean in the real world? What are the consequences of this elegant but also kind of violent process?
Well, there's a trade-off. The really good news is that this whole spray combustion process is incredibly efficient. You squeeze a whole lot of work out of every single drop of fuel. The challenge, though, the downside, is that the very same high temperatures and pressures that make it so efficient also cook up some nasty stuff we don't want. We're talking about soot, those little black particles, and nitrogen oxides, or NOx. And those are the two big things modern emissions controls are always trying to get rid of.
So that kind of leaves us with one last big question to think about, right? We've taken this incredible journey right into the heart of the diesel engine. We've seen this beautiful, almost delicate dance of physics happening at a microscopic level. So as we start engineering the future of transportation, as we design the engines of tomorrow, whether they're going to burn diesel or maybe hydrogen or something we haven't even thought of yet, what lessons can we learn from the elegant and, let's be honest, brutal efficiency of the diesel spray to help us power our future, but do it more cleanly?